A sound golf swing has three basic functions: contact, distance, and direction. Without good contact, the rest of it really doesn't matter. So in today's lesson, I'm going to share with you three simple ideas to help you improve the quality of your contact, getting the low point of the swing in the proper spot, creating nice, clean, crisp, compressed golf shots. This is stuff that you can incorporate right now. I know it's going to make a huge difference in your ball striking. Let's dig in. Your golf swing is just a circle, and we're creating a circle around an axis, which would be our spine. So if I was standing straight up and down, my spine is vertical. If I held this club up in the air like I was hitting a baseball, I'm creating a circle around my spine or around that axis. For the circle to touch the ground, all I have to do is just tilt this axis forward, right? So we have a forward tilt from our spine, we have a forward hinge out of our hips, and that gets the circle measured out to the ground. So in order for me to maintain this axis, I've got to make sure that my shoulders are turning around that axis on the proper inclination or the proper tilt. So the first thing you got to be able to do from your address position, you can just go ahead and put your arms across your shoulders, put a club across your shoulders, nothing too complex here. Get into your forward bend, set your axis. Now you have to feel this lead shoulder traveling down and across. So from its current position, my lead shoulder is going to turn down and across underneath my chin. If I go back to my setup here again for a second, from my shoulder position here, down and across would have my shoulder in a location right about here, kind of where the microphone is on my shirt. So I'm traveling not purely across, not purely down, I'm traveling down and across. And you can see now how this club shaft is pitched down towards the ground, not exactly at the ball, a little bit outside the position of the ball, but it's certainly not pointed right towards the camera. So the lead shoulder goes down and across, and we can simplify this by saying the lead shoulder rotates underneath your chin. Now from here, in the follow through, your trail shoulder simply has to replace the position of your lead shoulder. So lead shoulder under your chin, trail shoulder replaces the lead shoulder, and you can see now this golf club again is pointed on that same basic angle. So the more you can spend some time from a reasonable golfing posture, getting the lead shoulder under your chin, trail shoulder replacing the lead shoulder, that's the first thing you have to be able to do to get the circle predictably hitting the ground. And all we're doing right here is moving our shoulders in a circle around the axis, which would be our spine. The second thing we have to be able to do is we've got to maintain the radius of the circle. So the radius of the circle is being controlled by the length of your arms. So in the address position, this lead arm is nice and long. That's the radius. The lead arm down through the club shaft, down to the club head, touching the ground. If we are shrinking the radius back, down, or through, well, that would make it really difficult for the circle to touch the ground. So the first thing I want you to be able to do from your setup position is feel just a little gentle pressure between your elbows. I'm taking my trail arm and my lead arm, and I'm squeezing them together just a little bit. Not creating tension, not creating tightness, but feeling a little positive gentle pressure between those two joints. As I make my backswing, if I keep that pressure constant, it's going to make it easy for this lead arm to stay nice and long. Another little tip right here is trying to feel some pressure from your trail palm onto your lead thumb right here. And a lot of people, when they're trying to keep their lead arm long, they're doing so by trying to lock out their arm. They're locking out the elbow joint, creating tension in the elbow, creating tension in the shoulder, which creates tension in the golf swing. That's not what we want here. So if I have some pressure between my elbows, I maintain that pressure going into my half golf swing right here, lead arm level to the ground. If I feel a little pressure from my trail palm on my lead thumb, that again is going to help me extend that lead arm without having it be super tight. So a real important tip there I think you should consider. If you make a half backswing with the lead arm nice and long, now we're going to work back down to the golf ball, and through the ball, I want you to feel like you're going to close that gap between your arms just a little bit more. So if you think about high handicap golfers, things that we see day in and day out here at the academy, coming into the golf ball, we always see the elbows separating, getting farther apart, the arms folding up through contact, right? So we want to feel like through the ball, we're going to try and shrink that space, squeezing those elbows together through contact and also into the follow through, at least until my arms are level on the opposite side of the swing. So basically making half swings, lead arm level to the ground in the backswing, trail arm level to the ground, the follow through. Half swing is a really great way to map out the movement of your body and club through time and space. And if you can learn how to do these movements correctly with a half swing, you create some good contact, you sort of earn permission to make that swing a little bit bigger and a little bit faster. A great way to practice this is by getting some kind of a training aid that helps you feel that consistent pressure between your arms. There's a lot of them out there. Tour Striker has a great one. Pro Sender has one that's really nice. This one's called the Connector. I use this here at the Academy. But all you're going to do is put this between your arms, feel a little bit of pressure in the address position, get into your half backswing position, maintain connection with that training device with a little bit of pressure on that trail palm. Feel that pressure persist into contact, into the follow through. So a little half swing, it'll look just like this. I always like to have my students hold their finish, because if you hold your finish, you give yourself an opportunity to create a moment of learning. So I like to say, let's hit and hold, let's check and correct. And as we know, in a regular golf swing, you get that club up over your shoulder. Well, those elbow joints have to fold at some point in time. And you might also see a little bit of separation between the elbows. So it's really hard to be able to evaluate the consistency of the radius of the circle if you're always going to the end of your swing. So with a half swing, half follow through, at this stage in the swing, the arm should still be at full extension. So this is a great place to be able to practice to make sure that you're maintaining the radius and managing it nicely in your practice. Right, so here we go again. Got my training aid here. Little gentle pressure between my arms. Half swing back, half swing through. I'm still holding this training device. My arms are nice and straight. My elbows are still squeezing together. I've maintained the radius of the circle. So now we've got two things working for us. We're maintaining our axis of rotation. Lead shoulder under the chin, trail shoulder replaces the lead shoulder. We're also maintaining the length of our arms, or the radius of the circle. And those are the first two things that allow the circle to predictably hit the ground. Well, when we're playing golf, the circle has to hit the ground in the right spot, which means we're hitting the ball first and we're making our divot afterwards. So ball, then turf. So in order to get the circle in the right spot, you got to have your weight forward. So in my setup position, I put a little bit of weight on my lead foot. I like to set it more 60-40. And then at impact, we're going to be a lot closer to 80-20. So there's a definite shifting of our weight towards the target. And as I get to impact, you can see how my belt buckle is over my lead ankle. So if you're hitting behind the ball, if the circle's touching back here, well, your weight's not enough forward. So we have to be able to get our weight forward with this lower center of the belt buckle moving over that lead foot as much as we possibly can. So a great way to be able to do that is to start off by simply putting your weight in its impact condition. 80% on the lead foot, get the handle of the club over that lead shoe as well. You make a little half backswing from here, little turn out of that trail hip, arms nice and long, arms to full extension, right? So right there, even though I was doing that with the drill, what did I do? I maintained my axis of rotation. My lead shoulder went under my chin, my trail shoulder replaced my lead shoulder. I maintained the length of my arms, or the radius of the circle, making sure the circle could touch the ground. And then I got my weight forward, 80-20, belt buckle over that lead shoe, and that got the circle touching the ground in the right spot. Right? So those are all the components of contact. Maintaining your axis of rotation, maintaining the radius of the circle, getting your weight forward. So if you're struggling with good contact, if you're hitting behind the ball, if you're having a hard time predictably hitting the ground at all, you have to look at one, if not all three, of these influencing factors relative to contact. And of course, if you have good contact, well, then you have permission to add the speed component and also the directional component to your practice. So here's a little bonus tip to help you, right, from this weight forward drill, really feel like you're getting your weight forward through the strike from a more neutral setup position, right? So we're trying to get ball then turf, the divot starting here on the target side of the ball, And I want to feel like I can really stretch that divot towards the target quite a bit. If you're hitting off this trail foot and the divot's early, right, that club's going to be into the ground and then swinging back up in the air a little bit too soon. So I like to have this mindset of not just hitting one ball, but really trying to think about what I have to feel like to hit 4 balls. So where would my weight have to be? What would the length of my arms have to be like to be able to get my divot not only on the target side of the ball, but stretching long enough to get that divot really elongating itself out towards the target. So if I had to hit all 4 of these balls, well, I'd have to have my weight quite a bit forward. If I was going to hit all 4 of those balls, I'd have to be keeping these arms nice and long, right? Stretching the radius of the circle towards the target as much as possible, right? So now, when I take my setup, make a little practice swing right here, 60% on my lead foot, my backswing might feel a little pressure moving into my trail foot, my radius is nice and long, my lead shoulder's under my chin, but then coming through here, I'm going to get that weight forward, 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 belt buckles over that lead shoe as I stretch those arms nice and long to the finish, right? So being able to combine this idea of stretching the divot, that's going to help get your weight more forward. It's going to help maintain the radius of your circle. Again, half swings look just like this. All right, so 3 keys here to making good contact. Maintain the axis. Remember the simplicity, lead shoulder underneath your chin, trail shoulder replaces the lead shoulder. Club across your shoulders drill. Super simple. I know you've seen it before, but it's something you can work in to your practice day in and day out. Maintaining the radius of the circle, hugely important. Little pressure between the arms, little pressure from that trail palm on that lead thumb. Work on half swings. Half swing back, half swing through. Hit and hold, check and correct. Great way to work on radius management. Getting the circle more forward, well, your weight's got to be forward. What's a great way to do that? Hit some shots, staying on your lead foot. But once you can do that, think about what it would feel like to have to get not only through 1 ball, but 4 balls. And you got a great system here to improve your contact. If you have great contact, anything is possible from there. So thanks so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed our time together, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, give us a like, leave those comments below. Until next time, best of luck with your game.